Welcome to the Sangani Show, where we will talk about everything health, wealth, and wisdom. I came to the US in 1983 from Mumbai, India with $10.45 in my pocket and with a big dream in my heart. Now, I'm a practicing cardiologist, a businessman, an entrepreneur, life mentor, and most importantly, a dad. I have lost some, I won some. But every time I lost or won, I learned even more. And my success has not been easy, but finally I made it. And my next mission is to help you do the same. Learn from my experiences, and that is life is a business.
Hello, and welcome to the Sangani Show. My name is Dr. Bharat Sangani, your favorite doctor and your host. Today I have a very interesting topic to discuss, and even more than the interesting topic, a very interesting personality that I would like to introduce all of you to. The topic for today's discussion is the common business mistakes when it comes to payroll. And let me tell you, I have been the one who has started payroll by myself, and today, where the company is with 4,000 employees, it has been a journey. And I think I made all the mistakes anybody could make and continue to make mistakes in payroll, except for the right group of people who are handling the payroll at this time. So today we have a very special guest joining the show, and who will share his thoughts and experiences when it comes to the skills necessary for being successful. Mind you, what I said, successful, not only payroll. So he is a much more than a payroll guy, and I'll explain to you how. When Micah told me, let's call Charles, and let's talk about payroll and other things, and I really didn't pay that much attention to the other things, and I said, are you sure that our audience would just want to talk about payroll? And she said, absolutely. And it dawned on me that payroll is a very important part of our day-to-day activity, especially if we are entrepreneur and if we have people who work for us. But when I heard about Charles, I was even doubly excited. So let's talk about who Charles is. So his full name is Charles Reed, as you will come to know. And during this entire episode, we'll put up his name and how to contact him. So if you want to contact him, which I'm sure you will, you can reach out to him directly. Charles is an accomplished senior executive and entrepreneur with more than 50 years. Mind you, 50 years. That means he has forgotten more than what I know, or most of us in that bucket. And with a great financial leadership experience in a broad range of industries, and the author of 4 books. And when I just say 4 books, it's very interesting because, ladies and gentlemen, he brought 1 book today for me. This is a brand new book that came out, and it's called the Payroll book. So anything, I'm assuming, I have not read it, but I'm really can't wait to read this book, the Payroll book, and I'm pretty sure he can explain to us, or we will also read and get the first-hand knowledge of what that is. He's also a CPA, Certified Public Accountant, and over and above that, he used to, and probably still is, he's US Tax Code Practitioner. We'll just ask him more about him as the show goes on. A former member of Internal Revenue Service Advisory Council, a Vietnam veteran, and founder of Get Payroll. He runs his own company, Get Payroll, and then our company and his company have been trying to utilize his services, and we really are looking forward to have him provide the services to take all the worries out of payroll from us. So here it is, Mr. Charles Reed. So Charles, please explain your background, career. I mean, you got such a important and astonishing career that love to hear from you.
Well, I'm a Midwestern boy. I grew up in Iowa. After high school, went into the military. I wasn't ready for college. Spent 4 years in the United States Marine Corps, including a couple of years overseas. Came back, got married my wife. She had 5 kids when I married her. I claim insanity, but we were married for 45 years before she passed. Went to college, got my degrees, went to work for Texas Instruments, spent 15 years in the corporate world, realized I was never going to get to the top. I don't have the political skills. I'm unwilling to stab people in the back and toss them off the ladder. So in 91, I hung out my own shingle. My wife and I started our own company. It was an accounting firm with a sideline of payroll. And about 10 years ago, I sold off the accounting portion to my partner and continued the payroll company, and we continue to grow to this day.
Cool. That's a interesting transition. So you ate your cake and kept it too.
Very much so.
There's a classic way of doing it. Not many people are fortunate enough to do what you just did. So let us start with, tell us about Get Payroll. So the listeners, what can they expect and when should they come to you for help?
Well, Get Payroll provides payroll and payroll-related services to small and medium-sized businesses around the country. We're in all 50 states. And frankly, if you're not a payroll expert, you need us very early on. If you incorporate or set up an LLC that files as an S Corp, you're an employee of your own corporation, and you have to have payroll and withholding and W-2s and 941s and 940s and state unemployment and state withholding and all the things that go with it. That's if it's just you, let alone when you start hiring people. When you hire that first person, even if you're a sole entrepreneur and a sole proprietor, you're then going to need payroll, and it's not worth doing it yourself. It just isn't. When I was in industry, we always used the Payroll Service Bureau. It was not worthwhile to do it yourself. You'll make mistakes because you don't know what you don't know. Doc is a perfect example. As he said, he made all the mistakes entrepreneurs tend to. So I recommend that you look for a payroll company that can service your industry and your needs very early on in the life of the entity.
So does that mean you are a turnkey operation? If I'm a budding entrepreneur and I want to start a company, I can just come and say, hey, Charles, I'm going to hire 50 people, 25 people, whatever that number is. Take over the payroll from here on. Would you be able to manage that?
Yes. Now, obviously, you're going to have to tell us how much you're going to pay them and how many hours they work for those that are on an hourly basis. But other than that, we'll handle all the calculations, create all the paychecks and direct deposits, debit cards, handle all the state filings, all the federal filings, all the forms, all the things that you need to do and do correctly to avoid penalties and interest. We will advise you on setting things up, where you need to go to get your numbers from the various states and the federal, so you're legal, and we will work with you on all that. We're used to advising our clients on compliance issues, because that's really our unique selling proposition is our compliance skills and abilities.
So here it goes, audience. This is the person you can count on, rely on. Just hand over the keys for the payroll and things will be done. So let's ask another question to him. Now, I wouldn't say that there are dime a dozen payroll companies, because there aren't. But there is a fair number of people who say they know payroll, they can do it, etc., etc. So what makes you special as compared to the rest of the herd?
Well, the last time I looked, there were about 4,000 companies that said they do payroll. Where we're different, and as I said, our unique selling proposition is compliance. I'm a certified public accountant and have been for over 40 years. I'm a U.S. tax court practitioner, which allows me to represent my clients in U.S. tax court, even though I'm not an attorney. There's about 200 of us in the country. I've written the book on payroll because there was nothing out there that to advise small businesses about what they needed to do. So I wrote the book on that and published it with Wiley & Sons here a couple of years ago. That's the book Doc has. So we're like insurance for your payroll. You have insurance for your car, your house, your life. Hopefully you don't need those, But if you do, that's why you pay for them. Our competitors, for the most part, do a reasonably good job of preparing paychecks. But when there's a problem, and the IRS makes millions of mistakes every year, and the states as well, you won't know what to do or how to handle it, and most companies can't. They'll tell you to talk to your CPA, and if your CPA really understood payroll, he'd be doing your payroll already.
Very good point. Very good point. A lot of people say they know payroll, they understand payroll, but ladies and gentlemen, I am telling you from personal experience, it is not as simple as everybody tells you what it is. So, Charles, I understand you mentioned a couple of times that you are a tax code practitioner and you understand the IRS regulations. Can you shed a little more light on it? So when exactly would you provide that service, and what exactly would you do potentially that can arise from the IRS coming after you or wanting to come after you?
When there is an IRS problem, and it may be real, it may be a mistake, it may be a mistake on your part, it may be a mistake on the IRS's part. All that has to be determined. But the IRS is not a forgiving nor understanding organization. They will tell you that you need to pay, and that's about it. But there's a whole series of appeals that you can do. And dealing with the IRS, it's like sales. It's a whole bunch of no's followed by a single yes. So you have to know how to appeal that. And the last level of appeals is the U.S. Tax Court. After you've exhausted all the administrative appeals in the Internal Revenue Service, you can then go to U.S. Tax Court without having to pay the tax up front. If you go to U.S. District Court, you have to pay the tax up front and then file for a refund. With the U.S. Tax Court, you don't need to pay the tax. And that can be onerous, particularly if you don't owe the taxes. And so we can take a client and go to the next level of the U.S. Tax Court, which is a whole nother bite at the apple. And when you go to U.S. Tax Court, the first thing that happens is it's sent to what is called docketed appeals, a whole different appeals organization with very, very, very professional experts and legal counsel that are going to look at this, because the IRS does not like to go to court. Because if they lose, it sets a precedent. 95% of all U.S. tax court cases are settled pre-court. So it's a whole nother bite at the apple with a whole different organization. And it's very, very successful for us.
Very interesting. It's really makes it almost mandatory for us to get somebody who understands how IRS works, how the courts work, and an experience. So this is an invaluable information. And from him mentioning that IRS is not a forgiving organization, my God, what a true statement that is. And also, if you want complete definition, which I've never heard like what he just described, rewind the tape and listen to the first statement he made, which exactly defines what IRS is all about. I'm nothing against IRS. I mean, we all are law-abiding and tax-paying citizens, but there is something that we look forward to from an organization of that size that would make us feel better of where we are paying the taxes. But that's a discussion for a different day with a different group of people. Now, you also mentioned, Charles, that besides this tax and court, all that kind of stuff, you will also take care of the compliance. So is that a separate segment? How does compliance, is that something between do something and go to the court? Explain a little bit more about compliance.
Well, compliance is all the things that are necessary to comply with the law and regulations. The law is quite complex, and then there's massive amounts of regulations and rulings and court cases on top of that. And what we do for our clients is make sure that you are as compliant as we can make you in dealing with the various regulatory agencies. And there's about 15,000 different regulatory agencies that tax payroll in the United States at the federal, state, and local levels. So we make sure that all your deposits are made on time, that they're for the correct amount. We make sure all your documents and reports are filed on a timely basis with the right people. And then if there's a problem, we take a Form 2848 with the Internal Revenue Service, which is a limited power of attorney, and it allows me, as a certified public accountant, to advocate for my clients with the Internal Revenue Service. And we do this. We had one case that took 9 years to solve, and actually took a call to the Chief of Appeals in DC to get the right people to look at it. These are the kinds of things we can do that most of our competitors can't.
Very interesting. And then again, ladies and gentlemen, it requires significant amount of experience. Now, you did mention, and I think I know the answer, but I've been surprised before too. So I'll just get it clarified with you. You mentioned that you also provide this tax preparation service. I'm assuming that is regarding the payroll and not the individual taxes, et cetera, et cetera. So am I correct?
You're correct. I no longer do retail tax work for clients and walk-ins. That I sold that business to my partner. I'm still capable of doing it, and I do my own returns and a few friends. But really what Get Payroll handles is employment taxes and all the associated requirements from the various regulatory agencies for employment tax and payroll tax.
Interesting, because that itself is a major undertaking, and it'd be nice to have somebody of Charles' caliber to take care of those things. Now, Charles, you and I both know, lately I've been hearing all these cybersecurity attacks and companies shutting down. I practice in a town in Mississippi. My cardiology practice started there. And just recently, the hospital was under siege from the cyber attack. And literally, it shut down the entire computer system and everything for almost a week. And everything was on paper. We felt like we were back 30, 40 years ago, how we were practicing medicine. And it's a real threat. So what kind of security measures do you take when you take client and protect their data, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, first of all, we're in the cloud, so nobody's going to hack the computers that we have in our offices. That's one thing. We use a software company that is very, very security conscious. Can I guarantee it's never going to happen? No. Is it backed up? Is there duplicate systems? If they hack into one system and lock it down, is that going to stop us from operating? No, we'll just switch to the other one. So there is duplicate software and hardware available, so it's never going to be locked down for more than a few minutes or a few hours at the maximum. In addition to that, we take disaster recovery very seriously, and we all are set up so we can work from other locations immediately. So if a tornado comes through Dallas and takes out our office, it will shut us down long enough to get to the house. So we're very conscious of this. We've been on the internet since the mid-90s. I'm a computer programmer and systems engineer from many, many years ago. And when we first started, the backups were a thing that I was religious about, and my staff couldn't understand until we had a problem and the backup was able to be loaded and boom. So I'm very conscious of that, and we take extreme steps to make sure our client data is protected and available.
Cool. Ladies and gentlemen, here is one more thing about him. I didn't realize that he was a computer engineer too. And I think if you keep talking, we'll probably add a few more qualifications on his name, although I just think he has truly mastered the art he is practicing. So, Charles, we have talked about a bunch of services you offer, and now I'm somewhat confused because there's so much that we talked about and so much you do. So would you please mind going over all the services you offer in kind of a 1, 2, 3, 4 basis? And is this an a la carte, or we have to take the whole thing as a shebang?
It's a la carte, but we can package things for our clients. But we handle, of course, the payroll processing and all the tax services that go with that, all the payments, direct deposits, and so on. We handle HR and work with and have HR services. We have partners who handle workers' compensation on a pay-as-you-go basis. We can create handbooks. We can do, obviously, I advise my clients constantly on various other services. So anything that has to do with payroll, we've just recently added, for instance, a employment screening operation that will very inexpensively screen your new employees for you, which in this day and age is probably a necessity. We had a client that hired a young lady who turned out to be a embezzler, and they hired her into accounts payable. When they found out, they fired her and the staffing company that had provided her. But so anything that has to do with payroll, we either do or we're working on doing.
Cool. I think that will give clarity for entrepreneurs who are listening to this show in case if you decide to go ahead and get services from Get Payroll, aka Charles. The next question would be, so what is the process? Let's say our audience wants to utilize your services. Do they just call you up? Do they go to your website? What documents would they need? So give us some idea how to get to you to get your services.
Sure. They can go to our website. They can call us 972-353-0000, and we'll take care of them. We will, once we understand what their situation is, we will send out all the required forms via file invite for them to fill out, let them know exactly what we need, determine when we're going to start the services, what services we're going to provide, and we'll make that as easy as possible. We don't make it, obviously, we try not to make it difficult. And if they're with another payroll service, we'll help with the transition for that. If they're a startup, that's relatively easy for us and probably difficult for them because it's things they don't know or are familiar with. But we will walk them through. We have a very, very friendly staff that will work with you, walk you through it, help you do your first payroll or 2 or 3 or 4, whatever it takes to get you comfortable with it. Because we want to make this as easy as possible for you. We want you as a client for the next many, many years. So that's, we've got clients that have been with us 30 years.
Cool. And the longevity of a vendor or a client determines how good a relationship-based company this is.
Very much so.
I strongly believe in relationships. We are almost to have about ran out of our time, but no discussion can be finished without I do a fun fact question to you. So tell me a little bit about this being Vietnam veteran and what did you do and what is all this stuff you're doing in advisory council, etc.?
Well, I was in the Marine Corps, and I have been trained as a computer programmer, systems engineer. I was 19 years old and got transferred to Vietnam at my request. And when I got there, I wasn't going to sit in the computer enclave behind big walls. So I talked my CO into transferring me to a combat infantry company.
Wow.
And the first time I got in a firefight and that bullet went past my left ear, not my right, my left ear, I realized it probably wasn't the best decision I'd ever made in my life. But I pretty much survived, pretty much in one piece, and it was a great learning experience. And the other half of the question?
The advisory council?
The advisory council. I spent 3 years with the Internal Revenue Service on their advisory council. It's a panel, a third of it turns over every year. And what we do is we advise the Internal Revenue Service from a business point of view and a professional point of view, because the IRS is very insular. They live in DC, they live inside the IRS, and there's a lot of things they don't realize about business and about how things operate. And so we work with them. We worked with them on the new W-4 form. We worked on, which was disaster, and a lot of other things. They don't always take our advice, but sometimes they do, and sometimes we bring a point of view that they don't see. So it's a federal advisory council, and it was very interesting, 5 times a year up in DC. And it gave me a lot of connections within the Internal Revenue Service, which I'm able to use, and I'm very pleased with that. And so it was a win for me, and it was a win for my clients.
Well, again, thank you from me, the audience, and the rest of the country to be helping our country through Vietnam and being on the advisory council to protect us and enhance the reputation of this country. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for being the audience today and for listening to us. Follow all our social media. We are practically in every single social media, and you can probably see all the handles on the screen at this time. Go to our website, www.paratsangani.com, and I'm pretty sure you will find something that you will like. And don't forget to sign up for the Life is a Business today. Till the next time, thank you very much and goodbye. Charles, thanks for coming over today.
My pleasure, sir.